I'm going to be continuing with some previous videos I've done on individuation from a summit from the Jungian analysis, psychologists. And this is becoming who you really are, becoming who you truly are. So Jungian means Carl Jung. So Patricia Berry is the first teacher I'll share from. She says her parents and our parents and each one individually, my parents, and all that happened to us had its purpose for us to become who we are. It's ours to work around, to come to terms with, and solve the problems of. Even if there was bullying, abuse, psychological problems, these evoke what's necessary. And we know this in Judaism. We learned that Hashem made everything, God made everything exactly the way it's supposed to be for the highest soul light. And the strongest parts of the personality are where we hide out, also where our shadow lives. So there's lots of betrayal and depression or things like that, pain that can propel individuation. In other words, when there's a lot of pain, we have to become who we truly are in order to tolerate it. So things that feel too much, then we become who we are, which is not too much for the real us. Or maybe we become in line with who we're really supposed to be, right? So it's selfish and narcissistic to leave the community. The healthy shadow pushes us to move. Like then we come back to the community being ordinary, then we become common, weak, ill. It's like a bath of humanity, and then we can bring it back. We bring one's gift to the community. So we come like as you know, we can be ordinary, and then we can end up like we're not supposed to run away and be by ourselves. We're supposed to bring our gifts, but first we have to come and receive the gifts from everyone else. Individuation is becoming who we truly are. Then we can really bring our giftedness. So we have to be. When we think we have to be special all the time and we can never rest or be regular, this is actually an issue. This is like what causes drugs, suicide. People end up taking their gift away from everyone, like instead of just being regular for a little. So the medicine is learning how to set boundaries, say no, spend time as a regular, normal person with people who make us feel average, not above, and even toning down the gift. And otherwise we can recognize each one individually that there's the diamond and the demon. Like the diamond is the version of it that's polished, and the demon is the one that's out of control. So it can ruin us or it can make us become the best version of ourselves. It could drive us to death. But the death of who? The death of the person that we used to be, or the death of who we're supposed to be. So we want to choose, right? And then we have Tina Stromsted, the second teacher. She says individuation is how you find your own standpoint in the middle of a storm, like a still point, and come back to something more truthful and honest, even if it's hard to say sometimes when it's time to stand up. And it requires also looking at the body as so loyal, always trying to express our inner world, or our emotional or spiritual state, revealing things we don't even realize, like we can learn from it and how it carries, and we have to have respect for it. It lets us to be able to come forward more, and it picking up signals in subtle, constant dance with others, and whether it's familiar or group or one-on-one or new or meaningful or routine things. It's like the shadow movement the body works hard to express that may not be acceptable to other parts of life, like when we think about patriarchy or trauma, taking up space or making sounds, like our body may need to do that. That's why I personally, just putting this in, I'm not teaching anyone to do this, but I personally have to do one little dance to a song and one little song. Not little, I mean, I have to say short term. I have to do like a short-term dance, short-term song, nothing extensive, just to do that for my body to be, for me to marry the shadow and the light. So, and it needs to be, I'm going to continue here, that it needs to be a gentle addressing others so that they don't go into hiding when they realize they're leaking that material. So if somebody's kind of out of control or they're expressing a lot, we could sort of be gentle and say like, or we could ask permission to reflect back before approaching their unconscious instead of sort of barreling in. And this brings more respect to my fire and your fire, and it allows us to be curious about our unconscious anger. We can interpret it, integrate it, resolve it. When we're truly present and integrated, she said a quote, when the great swing has taken an individual into the world of symbolic mysteries, the inner life, nothing comes of it. Nothing can come of it unless it has been associated with the earth, unless it's happening when the individual was in the body. So with the Lubavitch Rebbe, the most recent Rebbe of the Lubavitch Chabad lineage, talked about Mashiach and redemption. the messianic light consciousness, it's about souls in bodies. So, and then I learned from like some teacher at the Nexus school run by Rebbetzin Tamar Tabak that like the difference between the energy body and the physical body, the physical body and the energy physical body is a shadow of a shadow. So like when we get out into like the mysteries and the symbols and we're not really living in our body and the body can't act it out and integrate the messages and become transformed, we're not really doing anything with it. We're just sort of like allowing things to become not productive. Nothing changes. And if we don't run from woundedness, we can actually heal and become familiar and tolerant and bring that fluency, experience, and strength to others. This is what can happen from our integration. And when we fill up with air as a grounding and liquids, contents of our body, our earth, our body, like taking deep breaths, and also like drinking enough water and also getting enough rest, this is what helps us to be in the here I am presence. And really, a side comment she says is that the emotional self being under the table while the intellectual self is over the table doesn't mean we don't have it under the table. Like just because it's on top of the table we think doesn't mean our emotions under the table are not also informing so much of what we do and how we feel and how we show up and who we think we are. And final teacher I'm going to share now is Jan Bauer, and she is sharing how individuation is not the same thing as individualism. Individualism is a selfishness. And although we don't need to be a missionary, we can just connect with someone interested in the psychological process. We have to remember to heal does not necessarily mean to become whole. It's courage and commitment that's required to see the unloved and projected parts. That's what allows for wholeness. We might heal certain parts but not become whole, like fully. That's like the next level. So individuation is the ideal. We can never fully know ourselves. It would be intolerable to become who we truly are as if we would be dead already, like everything's completed. So charisma is something to look at because there's this irrational authority where an individual has a hotline to the divine source. This yields altered state of consciousness. We can all tap into that, and some people can maintain it, but it's mobilizing, entrances, sways, enchants, possesses. It's something that captivates us. And it always works because the ideal is better than dissatisfaction. We can't tell if it's a good or bad influence while we're under the spell. For example, she says Hitler. So it's this promise of something better. It leads us and others into new ways of being. And however, it could cost our identity. It involves the best and worst parts of ourselves, empowers us to believe in ourselves. So either we become who we truly are or we lose ourselves. So everyone's sort of attracted to charismatics, because they do change things. They say, I have a new path for this. And when something's lacking or missing, we need the inspiration. It's a power, it's a gift, and it has qualities of magnetism. So the warning signs that this is the wrong influence is when there's no doubts, they don't have any doubt whatsoever, they become hostile or absolutionist, or they say that their solution is the only way. We have to accept idealization and acknowledge giftedness, but also we have to go where we can be ordinary and feel relief and being told, I don't have to be God. Like, I could be a human too. And this is like the dangers with following only charisma rather than developing our own charisma is responsibility to others can be a burden and at an expense of creativity, and the true original inspired message becomes overshadowed by identifying as the power itself rather than as an agent, and then using this power to dishonestly abuse, manipulate others, knowing that I'm not the gift but I have the gift. So in other words, if we kind of project and idealize someone for having giftedness, then we're not allowing our own giftedness. And truly, we have to remember it is lonely. There's to individuate is also to face that loneliness, and that our authority sets us apart, and it's important to have connections of some sameness, people like us to balance out. So we don't have to become so special. We could remain human, and at the same time, in that way we don't idealize anybody else. And in Judaism, it says if you don't choose God as your source, where you could get your own charisma, then ultimately they'll just be broken cisterns. That's from Jeremiah also, that you don't want to turn into God something that's just a creation of God. You want to go to the source. Anyway, wish you well. Have a blessed day becoming who we really are. Bye.